Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of the religions. And our repeat guest for the third show. Really a pleasure for me personally. Some conversations I've been wanting to have for a couple years now. Our brother Ben Abraham.
Hey, mister.
How you doing, sir?
Thank you
You
for
know, if
inviting
you don't talk
me.
about you, I will.
Okay, you want me to talk about me? Yes. Last time, I think.
Just a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
brief
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You
Sorry,
know.
I was shocked by my own shyness, I guess. If I can say something about myself, yes, I consider myself as a student. So I have always been a student. When I when I was 17 years old, I began to search, and I have never stopped. And I'm 52, and I have studied all my life within universities and also without, like outside universities. And I consider myself as in French, we have the word autodidact. So I consider myself as a self taught, I think. You say in English, self taught?
Autodidact. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. But so even though I went to school, I still nevertheless consider myself as a self, let's say, trained person. And for me, interestingly, studying was always a source of pain and a source of joy, both. I think Ecclesiastes says that the more you increase your knowledge, the more you suffer.
And he ate the scroll, and in his mouth it was sweet as honey, and in his
Bitter.
belly it was bitter.
But what we can say about suffering, we could also say it about joy,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it. So studying is a joy, source of joy, great joy, best joy. Because when I say studying, it's not just like filling your brain with information in terms of quantity. You see, I know more than you do, or you know more than I do. This is quantitative knowledge. And there is also qualitative knowledge. And I'm quite sure
Is
there is something beyond that, of course.
is what I know worth knowing? Is a good question to ask.
Yeah. Will your knowledge perish when everything perishes?
I believe until heaven, yes, because that's the second half of the verse that reads, "The dead know nothing. All that
Interesting.
they have, their love, their memories, perish with them."
Absolutely.
It's been my experience. You know, when I
But
see
this is,
people die, that
yeah,
they fully die.
yeah, your experience will die. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But the knowledge itself, the object of the knowledge itself, you see, Paul talks about, for example, the excellency of the knowledge of Christ. I would say that that excellency cannot die, even though I die. You agree with that?
Oh yes,
Okay.
or in anything that is in the popular memory. As long as that society continues and it stays in the popular memory, doesn't die.
And if we kill popular memory,
Well, the angels are still recording, and they don't die.
So we were saying that studying was a source of both of pain and joy,
Mm-hmm.
and also that knowledge. In my opinion, if I can continue, um,
Please do.
is something the real deep valuable knowledge is given from above, if we can say such a thing. Whereas human wisdom is acquired. I can work on my knowledge, you see. I could study, turn pages, and work hard. And what verb do you have in English? Strive, I think you have that verb.
That's a good word.
But do you, I'm quite sure there is a like a relationship between wi- human wisdom and divine knowledge, but I would never confuse them. Why are you
Yeah,
laughing?
there's a relationship. Our wisdom is loosely connected to the truth.
But as Isaiah says, God's computer, if I can translate literally, is not our computer. And by the way, in modern Hebrew, when they were looking for a word for computer, this is the word they took from Isaiah.
That is not surprising.
God's thought means God's device, and that device became the modern computer in Israel. So I have the right retrospectively to translate with joy, of course, and humor, but I'm serious at the same time. God's computer is not like our computer at all. You could look for the word marchev, marchev.
Huh. Is that a military term?
It could be because that device is a plan, and that plan could be used by the Israel army. Yeah. It's not my specialty, but
I
in
could
the
see that. Yeah.
in the army they use words from the Torah when they figure out a new weapon or something.
And where would I find this machshev?
If you type Pealim, P-E-A,
It has to be in English, boss.
it's in English.
Yeah.
English, yeah, English and Hebrew. Pealim, Pealim, Pealim. Could put that in the. I can put that in the chat.
Okay.
Pealim. So this is a dictionary, English and Hebrew, and if you know how to use it, you will type computer, and they will give you a verb, and that verb comes from the Bible, of course, and it means to think or to devise.
I want to find it in Blue Letter Bible, which is
I can
referencing
show it to you
Strong's
right now.
exhaustive. So,
Yeah, I can
well,
show.
well, just tell me the chapter and verse. I can find the word, think, devise,
Yeah, yeah.
compute.
Mhm. The verse is and the ways Isaiah 55:8. Yeah. This is very interesting digression because
Oh shoot, you already had it.
yeah, it was already there.
I did
I
not.
just want
I was off the screen and didn't see that you brought it.
just a moment. I just received a serious message from a student. I'm okay now. Okay, so do
Hmm.
you see that for my thoughts are not your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
and neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, we could begin with the way concept. When Jesus says, "I am the way," he is thinking about that word, derech, and this is the way. When Jesus said, "I am the way," this is the door, and the first letter of the word is a door. Dalet, number 4.
Hmm.
And this is the way. So God, well, we can conclude quickly that God's way is Christ. Interestingly, there he uses a plural, so we could talk about that. Ways. Now, let's talk about thought, which is not an easy word. Mahashava. So, so this word is translated thought, you see, or device. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a plan or a purpose. So now in Hebrew, you see, this word is a feminine word. The ending of the word sounds feminine. Mahashava. Now, this word comes from a verb, hashav. That verb, it's to think, to esteem, to calculate. You see that? So
Mm-hmm.
this is now the root of the Hebrew, the modern Hebrew word for computer.
A calculator.
I mean, it's a device to calculate. I mean,
Sure.
of course, the Hebrew UFOs always used calculators anyway. I'm joking, of course, but
Oh,
uh, but no, it's very serious. This is calculation, invention. You see, imagination, to count. You see the concept to plan.
yeah. That's a good word for a computer. Sure.
Yeah, it's great. This is the one they took. I mean, this is a verb that from the verb. If you look now for the word for computer in modern Hebrew, that's the root of it. So I think it's very cool. And now you return to Isaiah and you translate your computers are not like my computers. And
I
it's
think
very
there's
cool.
actual truth in that. I
Of
mean, many would disagree with me uh, and and say that what was seen long ago was defeat of physics. But I would
Mhm.
say that what they was seen long ago was seen as defeat of physics because the
Yeah, yeah.
people did not understand technology.
Hmm. Yeah, right. And this is the dictionary. So if you write computer, whoops, computer. It's not a good website. Huh? So you see, computer is, if you see my screen, is a marchev. So this is exactly the verb we talked about 2 seconds
Mm-hmm.
ago. I mean, the root is het shin bet. So that's Isaiah's computer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just cool. So to return to the
Oh,
beginning. Oh, sorry. Go.
well, I can certainly see why they would translate it as thought, but I think it has deeper meaning than just thought. My
Oh yeah, yeah,
calculations.
yeah. There you have thought. Most people will translate. This is plans, which is a little better. The Latin cogitationis. So this is Latin bullshit. It's just thinking. French is thinking. German thinking. So the Greek, we could look at the Greek, but I think it's
It's my opinion
thinking
that
there.
that both the Greek and the Latin are already once translated and trying to express ideas that aren't aboriginal to that language and to that culture.
Hmm.
And because of that, I try to view everything that I read from the Greek or from the Latin as through the lens of early Christianity, so that I can have what I think would be a better view.
Yeah, very bizarrely, I had to double check to make sure, but you see this, the Greek there,
Hmm.
bizarre. Huh? So the Greek reads, your will is not my will. So now this is another tradition of understanding the Hebrew text. You see that?
Yeah, will instead of thought.
Now, Odoi, this is the way. So the way is there, and the will, and it's plural. Your wills are not my wills, if I understand the Greek there. Yeah, and the your ways are not my ways, saith the Lord. So this is a far from what we just talked about. Do you think, or it's close?
Yeah, I can say related, but too generalized.
Yeah, because in
If
Hebrew
that seems fair.
they have another word. They have other words for the will concept. So this is not a will concept. It's a kind of plan, like an agenda, a device.
I can
Like
see that in it.
when you create something, you need a plan, and you will follow it. And somehow your plan is the computer of your project. If you see my point.
Indeed.
So now let's return to the fact that I still consider myself as a student. And now I am a teacher, and every day I tell my students that I am a student and that they have to follow my example. Um, I will finish with that, like this part of our conversation, by saying that I believe sincerely that studying is an act of humility.
Hmm. I can say the exact opposite. That a proudful student is a poor student,
Oh, yes, for sure. It has to be so.
and I know that because I was one,
One what?
a proud student.
I was one also as well.
Yeah.
I had to be destroyed many times, and I still need to be destroyed,
Yeah, the
unfortunately.
destruction that I appreciate most, which helped me adjust to the reality the best, happened when I was 42.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now we speak the same language as destruction.
It's funny because destruction is the beginning. It's I don't know if you have a false house
Hmm.
in which you live, and that is made up of misconceptions and pride and lies. It has to be fully destroyed that you can live in a house that is not that. Um,
It has to be so.
that's why I ask people, how did your conversion happen? And they'll say things like, I was born into this religion, or I thought about it once I was an adult, and it made good sense to me, so I adopted it, which is like a position of rationality.
Or they have a date. Some they have a specific date.
Right. What I don't hear often enough is, or as often as I'd like, is I was completely humiliated, and I start from there, and this is what I've been shown since I was
Wow.
humiliated.
This is what I love to hear. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because the self does not like that.
Oh no. The ego does not enjoy being humiliated. Not at all.
What the the in Psalm 119, if my memory is good, you have that super passage. You have four passages about afflictions, like this one. If you see it on the screen, yes.
Before
Before
I
I
was afflicted, I went astray, but now have I kept thy word.
what about that?
I think there's truth.
The other one
When,
is, oh, go.
but if I would paraphrase it into the modern English, because this is late Middle English, um, before I suffered, before I was hurt,
Hmm.
back before there was any pain for me, something like that. Um,
Or let's say substantial pain. Yeah,
Substantial pain, or when I was comfortable.
yeah.
But after I was afflicted, no longer comfortable, do I keep your statute? That I learn your statutes? In other words, I could not learn when I was in my comfortable place.
So second, so next verse, it was good that it was so.
Yes.
Look at the beautiful verb there, learn. This is what I call when I say that I like to study. I am referring to that.
And I would assume that the learn right there in its depth means not to review something, but to have it fully revealed, understood, clear, objectively understood, not subjectively understood.
Yes, and lamad is the letter lamed in Hebrew, and I'm quite sure it means 30.
Oh, that's that's like Confederacy times 10. Oh, it's see, the number 10 is governance and loyalty. Number 3 is harmony or confederacy. So saying 30 is like it's like saying harmony with government. Of course, it's speaking about the God government here. What do you think of that?
I mean, you would have to repeat, but let me confirm. Yes, lamed is means 30, and this is very old numerical value system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the modern. This lamed means 30, and it means to learn.
It's
Yes,
interesting. The list, which these lists vary, so it's not an objective thing to say Hebrew numerology is it's not a consensus. It's not perfect, but the list that I found, the number 30 standing alone is to be called of God.
interesting. But the values, I find them in the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not elsewhere.
Oh, tell me about these values, or at least that one. You just said what?
Do you see my screen? Lamed to learn.
To learn.
Do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
My values. I took them from the Bible, from the Hebrew scriptures.
Right. I meant the numerical, the values of the numbers in gematria.
Yeah, yeah. So you have many traditions, even up to this day. You have different traditions of counting the values. But I use I think the oldest one. It's you take Lamentations 3, or we just talked about Psalm 119 is a good example,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So the way I find my numerical values is I take the Hebrew text there like that, okay, and I look at the first letter of the first verse is Aleph, and
Mm-hmm.
this letter, as you can see, will be repeated 8 times for the
Mm-hmm.
8 verses, and after that they will. I think it's 8. Let me count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and after that it will switch to Bet, which is the second letter. So now this is the second section of the Psalm 119, and you will count 8 times Bet. So this is number 2. Number
Okay.
3, you see? Number 3, Gimel. Number 3. So traditionally, from that time, Gimel was number 3. It was a way to memorize the Psalm. So you see, the text gives the value. I did not read that in a book, but
Right.
in the text. Now you will count that 8 times and you will reach Dalet, the door, number 4, 8 times. And it's a way to memorize the alphabet. It's a way to understand the values. It's a way to memorize the psalm, because they used to memorize everything, because the scrolls were rare. It's a tradition of memorization. You see, there you have number 5. Hey. So this is the way I count my letters. What do you think?
Well, it seems evident to me that that's accurate because it's ascending in value throughout the alphabet, starting with the lowest thing. But that means everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc.
Yeah, like this.
Well, then it would all calculate the same.
The first. What do you mean? What do you mean? Just for me to
So
understand.
so if I say 1/8's 8, and then 8 2 16, 8 and 16 24, and then just goes on like that, right? So that's no way to tell me what 119 means.
I'm not sure if I understand 119. You mean the
Um,
Psalm? You mean the Psalm 119?
what the number itself 119 means.
As far as I know, the number is not in the text. The number
Right.
119.
That was
As
that, that
far
was
as
made
I
up.
know. I mean, as far as I know, we would have to check
But
the manuscript.
no, no, I'm absolutely sure you're right. We don't have to check it, but there are certain things, certain verses in the Bible that do have a numerical sequence in the text.
Yeah, but you would have to teach me these things, because the numbers of verses appeared in the English Bible like a few centuries ago only.
Yeah, I think both of us are not concerned with that. It was just an example of a larger number
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't a multiple of 8.
No, 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 no. You're right that many people calculate other values of the verses and the chapters. And my only personal point, tell me what you think, but it's in the primitive text. You see the Aleph there.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, this is not an addition over the centuries. No,
Right.
but over the
Right.
centuries, that this is already there in the text. So if this is one, Bet is two.
Right.
And also, I could show you other texts that confirms that.
No, no, I'm totally good. You
Like
you have no argument from me.
so, if you reach the end of the long Psalm 119, you finish with Tav 8 times. Resh, Shin, Tav 8 times, which
Mm-hmm.
is Christ, by the way.
Tav means Christ,
But I mean,
or
Tav
Mashiach.
is, yeah, Tav is a sign. It's also a The meaning of a letter, like the letter of the alphabet, is a sign,
Mhm.
and that sign also in very primitive Hebrew was the sign of a cross. Very bizarrely, because the cross is not a Hebrew; it's a Roman thing.
Right.
So it's just
Yeah.
very,
So
yeah. Go go
what
go.
I was referring to, like when you read it in the English, say the
Yeah,
King James,
yeah.
for instance, which they're
Okay.
all the same. Um, Moses lived to be such and such an age, and had a child, at that age, and then he lived beyond that to such and such an age. So when you read that in the King James, you have a number.
Yeah,
All the major characters have this,
yeah,
where
yeah,
there's a number assigned to major events in their life.
yeah,
Okay. But what's interesting about that to me is if there's a six in the number, it's not going to be the final number that's given. And if there's a six in the number, it means that that person was not perfect, enlightened, hadn't become the prophet yet, whatever, like that, was in some way falling short of perfection.
yeah. But
And then the
yeah.
Hebrew used
Mhm.
the number six to mean not yet perfect.
Yes, and also six. It's Vav.
Mm-hmm.
And Vav, I mean, we could have an entire 1 hour conversation only on Vav.
Yes.
Um, Six is right before seven, of course, which is Zayin. Okay, seven. So Zion is divine. Huh? We will see the divinity, of course, because of the number seven. But Zion is a fearful thing. This is the sword that will slay you,
Yes.
literally,
Yeah.
and literally.
Yeah. Dividing the sinew and the bone from what can be consumed. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a dagger. I think you say in English. That this is exactly the image of a dagger, if this is the proper word in English.
Yeah, I looked it up, and okay. It's the idea of separating, but it could be dagger, spear, knife,
Yeah,
sword.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As far as I remember.
that's what my brain says anyway.
Okay, so Vav, in interestingly, is the word is six, but in Yod A Vav A, the six appears there. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting, and also Vav in grammar has a meaning in Hebrew grammar. When you use the letter Vav, it means and, and it appears everywhere in the Hebrew text. Like if you take, for example, Genesis 1:1, okay? Do you see the Vav there appears once there?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first and
It makes sense
of the
as
Bible.
and. That really makes sense as
Six
and,
and.
because it's attaching one thing to another. So
Yeah,
it's like literally the and,
that is really,
from what I understand, or a tent stake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you see the seven, the perfection of the seven when in incarnation, when the logos is made human flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow the logos became number six,
Right. Less than perfect.
and he was the link. You see, and and between above and below. This is literal in Hebrew.
I believe so. Yeah. Which is funny to me, because Christians will say that Christ had the perfect life and thereby never sinned,
Mhm.
and yet what it's literally saying here is that he was imperfect.
Now look at the image. The primitive image of Vav is a nail.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why we use it in grammar for and because the nail unifies. You see, if you take
Yeah.
two pieces of wood and you nail them, you unify them, which gives a very profound meaning of the cross. By the way, if you think
That
about
it's an and sign, that
it. Oh
it is
yeah,
what attaches one thing to the other.
oh
It's
yeah,
the bridge.
yeah. And where he is killed, he is unifying everything.
I don't know if I can keep going like this, agreeing with you everything you say.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sorry.
It's not going to be much of a show. I mean, can we have a fight now and then?
Let's talk about the last album of Taylor Swift, which sucks like crazy.
I don't, I don't keep up on those things. I'm afraid I still can't argue.
We are missing nothing.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get too. Okay, so what about the rest of the word Yahweh? Not that that's a word, but what about the rest of the letters there?
So you have Yod, and you have Hey, and you have Vav, and you have Hey. So Yod is I'm talking out of memory, but this is 10. Okay. Your Hey is a 5. This is a breath. So this is your first long. You see, I have two longs. Two longs.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first one. The first breath. And this is your 6, Vav, we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a sign of unity between the two longs. I heard when one of my Hebrew teachers used to call that the two longs of the name of God, which is beautiful because you can see the two fives there. So if you ask me,
Mm-hmm.
how many letters do you have in that word? This is a trap, because if I say 4, I'm wrong because I have 3 letters. I have Yod, Hey, Vav, and another Hey, but it's the same letter. And if I say 4, I'm wrong also. So it's this word cannot be approached correctly by human beings because this is at the same time 3 and 4. If you see my point,
Yes, because one repeats.
yeah. So in many traditions they separate the name. They say that the first part is above, and you can pronounce it if you separate. It's Yah. And the tradition in question, and I think it's a Jewish tradition, they say that the other part is here, down here, and God wants to reunify the name. It's just a beautiful tradition.
I have interpreted this. Of course, there's several ways, as we're pointing out here.
It's infinite.
I have interpreted this to explain it to others that it's the house with 4 corners tied to the other house with 4 corners through the hand of grace. So the Yod Hey Vav Hey, that it's the grace of God, offering the arm, the hand, to lift, to give strength, to help up. The 4 corners of heaven tied to or pegged or nailed to through the crucifixion, the earth, and and that seems pretty consistent to me throughout the rest of the idea.
Wow. And now you see the result is 26.
Okay.
Now this is important because in Jewish tradition, 13 is an important word. Bizarrely, in the pagan cultures, 13 is a bad luck number.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be also possible in Hebrew, but not in what I'm going to say. 13 is the number of one. When you say God is one, Adonai Echad, this word, if you count the letters, it's 13. If you count the word for love, Hava, it's 13, love. So if you have one love, it's just a beautiful thing. Huh? But if you have one love, you have 26, which is Adonai. Look at that. It's not scientific, it's just beautiful. But also it's scientific in the sense that the words have the proper value. This is 13, this is 13. It gives 26, which is the name of the Lord, but 13, just to show you that 13 is in this case absolutely positive. It's one, as in God is one, and it is love. Hmm.
That's
Actually,
interesting because God is one, which you can say it colloquially, you can say it literally. Either way is fine. And then in the list that I found, number 3 refers to harmony,
hmm
or no separation.
hmm
So the number 13 broken down individually also works the same as you just said.
yeah. And these are two important attributes. God is one, God is love are attributes. Love, an attribute given by John, and one is an attribute given by Moses.
I don't know, audience people, are we too deep into this that does it still make sense? Are we
Oh
speaking
no, but
French
this
to
is
each
just a
other?
play. This is just a play on words.
Yeah.
But so yeah, studying. We were talking about studying. Huh? So yes, to learn that I might learn something. That was the second affliction of, and the other affliction was this one. I know, O Lord, that thy judgments are right, and that thou in faithfulness has afflicted me.
And for a second witness, the Father chastises the Son.
Yeah. And faithfulness there is attributed to God. And it's interesting because this is the only word you have for faith, emuna in Hebrew. So faith is a very Greek and modern concept. If you type faith in the Old Testament, you will not be satisfied. So emuna is the concept. This is faithfulness, and this is, just to be very clear, the origin of emuna is the origin of the word amen. Amen. When you say amen, so this is very serious stuff. The faithfulness of God is the yes or the amen of God. And now, it is in that faithfulness that He has afflicted you.
That is interesting.
I hope.
Afflicted in the yes of God.
Yes, literally.
That's beautiful.
Yes, it's a yes. Christ said yes. Do you think?
Do I think Christ said yes? I think Christ says yes because he sees what can be done, and swears on himself that he will.
Wow.
Because who would say no given the opportunity?
I am afflicted very much. Quicken me, O Lord, according to thy word. So that word is the logos. Like, I mean, I know that if I click on the Greek, I have to expect to see the word logos. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is very serious vocabulary. According to thy logos.
So how do you read logos? Because I read it as truth.
Actually, you know what? You asked me how I see logos?
Uh
Wow. Invite me tomorrow.
huh. Is that too long of a conversation for today?
But for me, logos, I could give you 12 definitions right now out
Mm.
of memory. And I could also say that I may be too young to really understand the logos. I'm just 52.
I'm
So,
only suggesting I have a concept for it, not that I know what the truth is.
what is your concept of the logos?
That it is all that is true.
It has to be so. You
It's
cannot be
it's
wrong if
it's
you say that.
informational. It's not disinformational.
No, no, no. You cannot be wrong if you say that.
Yeah.
But the problem is the word. You see, the problem is that you see there they translate word in English. You see,
Yeah.
but the
Well,
problem is that I would need a footnote and write like a big paragraph.
like a book. You
But
need a
I
book
mean,
right there.
you have an essential Hebrew word davar, which is Christ. God does everything through the davar, through the word of God. So this is essential vocabulary. And my other point was, oh yeah, word is just one good translation. You see, it's not that it's not a good translation.
Right.
It is, the problem is that it is a translation, even good. That's a
Yeah.
problem. Because if you click on other languages, of course, it's not better because it's how could a language be better than another language? But you see, they say word everywhere in the English tradition. It's word everywhere, English tradition. Okay. Now, in the Latin tradition, they use verbum, the verb. Now, John 1 1 in the Latin tradition is in the beginning was the verb. Okay. Same thing in the French. When I was young, it was always in the beginning was a verb. And when I began to learn English, and I, for the first time, heard in the beginning was the word, I found that bizarre because it's another tradition. French and Latin is the verb, which is also a good translation, by the way. You see the
Isn't
problem?
that isn't that saying like the action?
It's a verb, yeah. It's a verb. In English, you
So
go
it's
for the noun, like for the word. In Latin and in French and probably in Italian, we go for the verb, which describes an action. But both translation are not bad.
yeah.
The English tradition of translation, I call, is good. The word in the beginning was a word. In French, the verb. It's not we are not more stupid. It's just it's another
I
uh,
mean,
tradition of translation.
doesn't Paul comment on that? You can believe what you want if you never act on it. What good is it? Or the opposite.
Yeah, interesting. In Spanish, they go for the word palabra. I don't know Spanish. I'm quite sure it's a word. And in French, there they go for the word, but this is Protestant French. You see, word.
Hmm.
But Catholic French is the verb.
Okay.
You see, in German, the word. You see, Wort. I don't know. And so it's very interesting all that. So the problem is that what's the meaning of davar, or in Greek, what's the meaning of logos? I have 12 definitions at least. And they all match, by the way. They all match with one
Yeah.
another. Yeah.
Yeah, like we were talking about some of these Hebrew ideas and what each letter means. It works
Yeah,
well
yeah.
together.
Yeah, they work well together. But they are rich, you see. It's not just one word that will translate your concept. You need 12 words to approach your concept, which is great because nature works like that.
I think they were trying to keep it something that a person's back wouldn't break when they picked it up.
Hmm.
So it seems obvious to me that in a lot of places they were trying to be as brief as possible.
Personally, sometimes I would like to try to share my passion for language of scripture. But tell me what you think. But when you open the Hebrew text and you look, you see at these words, quicken me and I'm afflicted, oh Lord. And now,
I I
according,
actually
you see, this is so deep. We could spend 1 hour just talking about that. 1 hour.
I mean
Easily.
that happened to me. I didn't word it that way. How I worded it when this happened to me is I worded it like this: You have woken me up. Now I'm starving to death. Feed me.
Cannot be
And that
wrong.
was part of a poem and a prayer.
Wow.
That's before I ever. I think I hadn't completed one book of the Bible when I felt that way and wrote it that way.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Now tell me a little more, please, on your doctrine that I need to understand in a better way.
Hmm.
Please.
In the beginning of what concerned you, where you are right now, the powerful beings reformed the sky and the planet that you are on.
I like that. And what happened?
Well,
Like a great cataclysm or what?
when they arrived here, it was without area distinctions and there was no life forms. There was not even enough atmosphere that if you stood on it, you'd see anything looking out but black. There was no refraction of light, and so there was darkness on the face of the deep. And the ideas of the Yod He Vav He, of the Yahweh, the God.
Yeah.
The ideas of the God pressured the angels to act, and so they did act. And here's how they acted upon the earth: first atmosphere, then oceans, and right on down the list of 6 days of creation.
So are you comfortable with an infinite universe?
I am comfortable with not knowing or being able to understand the truth of the existence of the universe, but I lean toward steady state with change in pockets. And I
Okay.
think that when we talk about the knowable universe, obviously the rest of it's unknowable by definition. So how big is the unknowable part? Let's say it was 50%. Let's say the universe is actually twice the size that we can see. Well, is 50% a good survey? Well, no, 50% is a
No,
crap survey.
of course.
And that's if it's only twice as big as what we can see, which we have no reason to believe. And the more you think about that, the worse it gets. If we had a third, 1/1,000,000th, we do not have an example of one. We don't. We have an example of maybe nothing. So when we see expansion in this little bubble in the universe, to extrapolate that out to all of the universe is more than proud. I don't think we can do that. So I don't think I know what it is. I don't think I know how big it is. And I don't think I know how old it is.
Which I like. So now, who are they? If I can attack you with a super question.
Modern thinkers today. When I said they, I meant modern thinkers.
Okay. And now the Elohim, who are they?
Oh, that they. Powerful beings. When they do something positive, I translate that to angel. If they do something negative, I translate that to demon.
Okay. Personally, I have another kind of vocabulary for that, but it's okay.
Oh, I don't know. I'd like to hear it, if you don't
Uh,
mind.
I mean, it's not that far from what you said, but for me, these are not angels per se, but sons of Elohim, and I would distinguish them. But we could have another conversation about that.
No, that works just as well. That's a fine. Sons
Okay,
of Elohim is
you
just as
don't
good.
mind? Okay,
No, that's
you know,
fine.
because
Yeah.
for me it's important, and maybe it could open maybe an interesting door. Because for me it's important that they are sons of Elohim, because they can mate with
Yeah.
the daughters of man.
Chapter 6.
Whereas an angel is another kind of being. So it's not, and now in Genesis we say that everything produces itself according to its kind.
Yes, of
So
course.
now if the Elohims
Well,
can,
there are little
well, what,
exceptions.
this is not what scriptures say.
What, that things reproduce after their kind? Well, yes, within their kind, it's just too broad of a range of diversity to say kind, and it's evident that you can interbreed some things, a liger, a mule, things like
That's
this.
true. That's true. This is no violation of that.
No,
No, I mean, if, yeah, but my point is that the sons of Elohim are able to mate with the daughters of men.
so that they are of the same genre. They're of the same category. I agree.
Limineo, something like that in Hebrew. And this is interesting. It means that Adam, in my opinion, tell me what you think, but it means that Adam is of the kind of Elohim. And I would somehow debate that thing.
Well, I love a good debate. I do. I really enjoy it.
You wanted simulation, so
Yeah. I
let's
love the mental exercise. I love the chance that I could be wrong and become right. I love things like that.
I may be wrong also, but I would repeat my proposition. Adam is of the Elohimic kind.
Okay, because what I think is true in the Bible, and the way that I'm reading it, there's no chance that Adam is not an Elohim. But that second occasion of Adam, the first occasion of Adam, is a reduced Elohim that dies of old age, gets diseases, cries a lot, and overreacts to things, namely us.
And what about the last Adam?
The last Adam, or the Christ for this earth, is also to be Elohim, once ascended, becoming the everlasting Father. He becomes Elohim.
According to the Elohimic kind.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
has to be so. So we cannot debate again.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
We'll just have to live with that. Yeah.
And
But of course, all that follows from the original Elohim, which are not good, and that they're referred to as ancient. They are evil to us, that had us as slaves. Now, this is where a lot of people would argue with me, what the Bible means by Elohim. But I hold that Satan believes that he and his kind have a righteous claim to us. They didn't just make that up whole cloth out of their imaginings. That they're not just jealous of us. That's
or
an
joking.
okay way to explain it, but it's not. Let me say it this way. If I try to explain to you having emotions, and I were a psychopath, I literally didn't have human emotions, and I'm trying to explain to you how I see the world, I would have to use emotional talk to explain to you a non-emotional thing. Because you can't understand except through emotions what emotions are. So I think that's what the Bible is left with, that it's using emotional terms like evil and harm, to express an idea where it's bad for us because of the animal that we are, but I can't say that I think that Satan thinks of himself as evil. That doesn't even make sense. But actually sees himself as a righteous, a true claim.
You seem to see to conceive evil as Spinoza did.
I don't know.
Yeah, but great genius of Amsterdam 3 centuries ago.
I'm afraid I haven't studied him. But I believe the way the Bible is using the word evil is it means that which harms us, the kind of animal that we are.
Yeah, this is what he said. He said that there is no evil in itself, but what is evil is what is violating your nature.
Right. I think he's got it right. Good for him.
He was a Jew, of course.
I didn't know that either. Sorry.
But he was also excommunicated, of course.
For saying things like that? I've been excommunicated a few times myself.
Wow. You would laugh if I would tell you my story. I think I belong to many religions right now at the same time, and they don't know it. But
yeah, me too. People ask me what's my denomination, and the best I can answer is I see the Injil. That the truth was given to everyone everywhere as soon as their society got developed enough and they became their own thing. The truth was given to them, but in a way that made sense to that culture, which of course is different in every culture. So the stories seem different in our prejudice and lack of understanding of other cultures, but these things are not different.
No. So you are open.
Yes, I'm certain that Gilgamesh and Enkidu are describing the relationship between the father and the son, and uses the bride to tempt him, the woman, the harlot, to tempt him out of being a wild man.
Okay, and who is
Absolutely.
Umbaba? Who is Umbaba?
Which character was that? I don't remember that name. Is
The
that the
big,
bull?
the big monster in the mountain, and he tries to conquer Umbaba. I think he conquers Umbaba, and he tries to find the plant of immortality.
Um, if I'm remembering the story right, and it's been a few years, please forgive me if I'm wrong. Umbaba is the undefeatable monster in the mountain,
I
and
mean,
and
I
would
was 20 years
right.
old, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I think that represents the Satan.
Yeah, and he conquers Umbaba.
Yeah, but he kills the bull of heaven, which means he's born into the tribe of Reuben or Taurus, or born late spring.
But he finds the plant of immortality. This I remember
Yes, he
because
does.
I was shocked by that. He finds the plant of immortality,
Yes,
and he falls asleep, if I remember, and the snake comes and
that's
takes the
correct.
plant. And because of that, Gilgamesh has to die like a mortal being.
Yes, but he falls asleep on purpose because he needs and wants to.
He wants to
It's not
die.
an accident. Yes, that's because he's the Christ.
Wow. And he wants a statue to be built in his name.
Yes, there is. We
And
have
if,
crucifixes today.
yeah. And we found a real statue, you know that?
Well, we found somebody who built a thing at about the right time that represents the idea. We don't know that it's the statue.
I'm so excited, Gilgamesh. Let's talk about Gilgamesh.
Yeah, I did a 10-hour stream with Math Pig on Gilgamesh, actually. We went through it line by line.
Wow.
Yeah, that Enkidu, of course, in understanding that the Christ does what the Father did before him. That is, the Father also was a Christ on an earth, giving his time of 3.5 years of testimony. He did it too. Now this present Christ sees that, and he's imitating it. Where does he see it? Well, he sees it in prayer, and he sees it in the text, and he's imitating that. And he also, like the everlasting Father, the Father, becomes the everlasting Father, the Father, just of a different group of children of God. And that's the same as the relationship between Gilgamesh and Enkidu. It's the father son, the older brother, the younger brother, the one who's refined, the one who has to be learned, who has to be taught and brought to
Or
refinement.
afflicted. Afflicted.
Yes, exactly, afflicted. Yeah, he has to be afflicted
Okay.
in order to get to where he needs to go. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I follow you. I follow you. So the Hindus would really love you, huh?
Or hate me. Yeah,
Because the way you see Christ, if I understand, is that you don't think that there is only one exclusive incarnation.
sure I do. It's just he's known by many, 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 many names in different cultures. Just like if you say
Okay.
my name in English, it comes one way. If you say it in Spanish,
Okay.
it comes another way.
Okay, that I would accept that. But Gilgamesh is a true story or is just a story?
Well, just like Christ in the ancient Near East, it's just a story. It's prophetic. It's telling the truth of the future, which is why the Mayim, the water that
What?
has relationship, human relationship waters. In
Yeah,
other
what
words,
verse?
sperm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that the sperm is it's genetics that keep us all connected. That's just true. We're all the same kind of animal, and the Mayim is a flood. It's a giant amount of these related animals over or around about 8 billion, well over 7 billion people. And it's true that in our genetics is the possibility to live forever. That is, if you swim down in the waters, you find the tree of everlasting life. I mean, it's a fine way to say it.
Totally heretic.
I know, but it's also true in science. Not that I found it out in that order. I didn't find it in science first. I found the claim in the Bible, and that
Okay.
caused me to go on a search that revealed it in science.
Okay, now I have many questions for you. Do you mind? Do you even care about the historicity of the existence of Jesus?
I think the story that we have in our hands is talking about the end of his earth. And that's
So,
always the case.
so it's not a historical document behind you.
Sure, it happened in the past, just not on this planet, which is why we find no evidence for it, because it didn't happen here.
So when Jesus was crucified in the gospel, it was not on this planet.
Right.
Okay.
It was the end. The time was at hand, just like he says. That generation did not pass before all those things were completed. I believe all of it's true.
So all that
The only
happened.
mistake is that it happened 2,000 years ago in the ancient Near East, just because it's set in that
Area.
in that time frame. Yeah, in that time place. Just because that's when it appeared, it was written that way, so it makes sense to those people, so they could keep it in their social memory. But I really believe it's only using surroundings to tell of a greater thing.
And what was that place?
The greater thing is the good news, the gospel of salvation, that at the end of this experience, we are invited to go on to a greater thing, not because we earn it, but because of bloodlines and because of grace and because of the sacrifice of Christ. That's why we get it, not because something we do.
Okay, I like that.
I mean, it's just that we're literal children.
And I also like the fact that you see the biological aspect of salvation.
Well, as soon as you say angels are concerned, you should ask the question why.
Because of the because of
Why
the
would an intelligent thing be concerned?
they are concerned because of the seed.
That's right. It's because of the relationship, which it even reads that we are reformed and repurposed to be lower than angels. That's a line in the Bible that people tend to just, I don't know, that twist it, ignore it, do what they will. But the claim there is that we're of the same stuff, but we're restricted and they're not. And then we found junk DNA.
And
Whoa.
yeah, I was about to say not just restricted, but we are confused. And you know what? I was very
Yeah.
young. I was very young. And I already had that concept of being part of humanity, okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that is confused with another race.
Well, there
Okay,
is the number 2 fusion.
this is interesting. And when you were talking about Adam, you see, and after that, the second Adam. And now, when you read in Romans 7, you see the fight between the two seeds,
Mm-hmm.
because this is what it is, the fight between the will of the flesh and the will of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So now, this is a fight between two seeds, like literally two races. And I believe that humanity is fucked up because humanity is confused. Have always believed that. Always. We are a confused race.
Obviously, yeah.
And somehow we know it. My dog is not a confused dog. He's just a dog. I mean, we are confused.
Yeah, it's evident to me that even the more intelligent animals that we see around us are 100% what they were supposed to be. They're performing dog perfectly
I envy my dog. He's an absolute
for this way.
perfect being.
Yes,
I'm not. I'm confused.
yes.
And
Isn't that
Christ,
interesting?
it's interesting. And God is pure by afflicting me, purifies. But you see, it's not just a spiritual, I don't know what, mystical thing. For me, it's a biological thing as well. So this is not a very popular topic.
No, of course not.
Of course, I'm not talking about purifying the race in the sense of, you know what I mean.
Oh, Joe, let's just skip over that because we can
Okay.
just grant that's crap right there.
Yeah, of course.
That's all junk.
Of course, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about salvation of the race, the entire race. And it's biological. Of course, it's spiritual. It's all one.
Just real quickly on that, not to change the topic at all, but the word racism is racist because it assumes there's different races of human. There is
That's
not.
true. There is one race.
There's a hidden assumption. Yeah, if I give you the sentence, I am of the blank race, the only
Oh,
correct answer is human.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not referring to that when I say we are confused.
Right.
The human race is one. Of course, it
Yes.
includes all the ethnicities and all the colors and everything.
Yeah, the reason that I think that the word onyx is used in the text of the Bible in the description of the Garden of Eden is, I mean, aside from the green shades, there's no green humans, but there is sardonyx or pink onyx all the
Mhm.
way through all the brown shades right into a very dark black. And I think that it uses the word onyx to reflect our skin tones.
I like
But
that.
it says that we're all family building block stones. Bane, children, sons.
Yeah. Now, what about the Tower of Babel?
Oh, I can talk quite a bit about the Tower of Babel. And here's the main topic that I would debate anyone with in the Tower of Babel. The word that they translated words that they translated to read in the English all one language is a
Okay.
very bad translation.
I think it's
And I
lips.
believe what's that?
I think it's one lip.
Yeah,
But
yes, it is. It is one.
but continue, continue.
So I read that as the terminate or final language, not a one language, but the last language. So it is true. The rest of the story makes sense. Like they changed it from thin pale tile to brick, and they changed it from um, permanent language into one language, singular language. And those aren't the same ideas. And every time that I have blindsided people, and I do it on purpose, I blindside them with the definitions all in a row,
Mm.
and then I ask them for what it could be referring to. And 100% of them so far have come up with the same answer I came up with. Because what it really reads is it kindled inside the people using the terminate language that they should come together and build a platform where it would be secure and an obscure people could become famous. And it was promised that it would be safe, but as it was built, it turns out that it was filled with slime pits, which, by the way, slime pit means like mud puddle with rotting blood in it. Um, so, and that the tower extends to the sky and that everyone would be able to use it and those ideas. So I like to ask people, but I won't ask it of you. Um, the way I read that is a description in ancient words of what the internet is, and the internet is the only occurrence of that on the planet ever.
Okay, now that's interesting. Let's talk about God's computer.
Yes, let's. I mean, it's a truism. If you performed the signs of end times, it would drop the power grid and kill satellites. In other words, the tower would fall, and no one would be able to speak to each other. And it's absolutely true that all of us can speak to each other because of this universal terminate language called mathematics.
I love that.
What do you see in the words?
First, I see the confusion right there I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So the text says, go, go down, Venabula. This is extremely powerful verb. And balal is to confound, but I mean it is first used in Genesis, and they're confound. Okay, it's the first time the verb is used. Wow,
What is the verb?
it's balal. This verb, 1101, balal, to confound. Sham, sham means there. It's a primitive language. Huh? So Sham means go there and confound there. Sephatam. So this word there is a singular, okay, and it means
Right.
this. It means lip, literally. Sepha means lip, your lips.
Sure.
And very interestingly, so it's not language. There is another word for language in Hebrew anyway. So this is the lip, and there is only one lip. This is what we don't see in the Hebrew there, in the English, sorry.
Right.
What is, tell me what is one lip?
Well, it's part of two lips.
Aha. And when you close your mouth in silence, you have one lip. When you open your mouth, this is Hebrew tradition. When you open your mouth, you have two lips.
So I could read this silent language,
Somehow.
silent communication.
I
See
mean,
that really agrees with what I think it's
interesting.
trying to say.
And it's repeated there twice. The second lip is right there in the text, lip singular.
Mm-hmm.
This is very interesting text. Now, okay, the left, okay, build, Babel, okay. So
Is
now,
there any part of that that you saw, or if you would even go back, is there any part of that you saw which would preclude it from being machine language,
can you explain, reformulate your question?
computer talk,
Yeah,
zeros and ones,
yeah,
the universal language of mathematics?
yeah, the binary calculation.
Yeah,
What is
which allows me to speak in real time to someone in Japan, and they see it in Japanese, and I see it in English.
absolutely. And when I studied the primitive Chinese text, I found very old binary calculations before the invention of language. They used the number nine, and you can read about that. They were writing on turtle. What is the top of a turtle in English? Just a moment.
Tortoise shell.
Yeah, they used to write on the tortoise shell, and their yin and yang was 9 and 6. That was even and uneven numbers, and this is very far, like at least 3,000 years ago.
Well,
And
I
light,
do have a theory we invented no language.
absolutely not. And you can be sure Genesis, especially Genesis, is full of math, full. One day I could show you an interesting video presentation of from statisticians from Israel. It's pure math. Yeah.
So it does make sense to me that if you had a solar flare that triggered a major seismic event, or there was a quaking of the earth, then it would also drop the power grid, in which case the internet would fail. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't be restored or they wouldn't make attempts to restore it, but the internet would instantly fail. And then our languages would be babbled, literally.
That's interesting.
So again, I think that this is talking about the great day, the end times, as they say, and that it would be true in that time, just like everything Jesus said would be true in that time.
So if I understand you, the Tower of Babel will happen.
Yes, that it's the internet and it's working right now and it will fail.
So you see in the Bible a big prophecy,
Yes.
and you don't see history like behind you in your actual human history.
Right. I don't think there was ever a time on this planet where there was a universal language. There have always been sub languages. I don't think there's ever a time where you could have baked light colored tiles and put them together to make a tower in the heavens. I don't think that ever happened, except for now. We call them breadboards. I think this is the first universal usage of any language, mathematics. And I think that mathematics actually does what it claims. And I think that we were promised. I remember being promised that the internet would be safe, and it's not. I mean, weren't you promised that? I was.
Oh, as promised, Facebook would be free. Is this still free?
Yeah, well, depends on what you call free. Um, so everything that the text is describing is true of the internet,
Yeah.
and as far as I know, could never have been true before now.
Wow. So if I understand you, we should expect a big boom.
Well, the people who make satellites are so convinced that it will happen, they can shut them off remotely. They can turn off their satellites to preserve them. That's how convinced they think. That's how convinced they are that there's going to be a solar event heading this way sometime or another.
Okay. But now I'm quite sure you don't reduce scripture to internet and I don't know the current news and
Well, I'm a materialist, a physicalist. I don't believe that that there is anything supernatural, and anything that anyone ever viewed as supernatural was only things they didn't understand.
you speak like Spinoza again.
I'm, I should apologize, I guess.
No, no, no. Now he's the greatest genius of Europe, in my opinion.
Well, I haven't studied Spinoza. This is just what I see in the text and what I think is true in reality.
One day we asked Einstein, "Do you believe in God?" And he said, "Of course, but I believe only in the God of Spinoza."
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so this is so interesting. So if I understand for you, there is no supernatural realities. The reality, sorry.
Right. I mean, there's plenty of things that I don't understand right now, but that doesn't make them magical.
No, that's true. And God himself is not supernatural.
Right. According to the text, as far as I can see, God is spirit, God is love, and then it lists the seven spirits, and they are all immaterial constructs that do not change over time. There's no need for them to change. And that they are the most fundamental things for prosperity in the human animal. That is, I agree that they are the most fundamental things.
So, and when you die, you die.
Yeah, like the text says, the dead know nothing, and I am a God of the living.
And what's next after that?
Resurrection, or in some cultures um, they call it reincarnation in some cultures. But basically, I think it comes down to cloning. That we just take the genetics of you, should you die, and make them again.
It reminds me of a UFO religious sect in which I was involved when I was a teenager.
Well, I don't know how it would be avoidable from the text, since it gives the measurements of heaven, the coloration, the decorations. It says that heaven is filled with pairs, not singular eyeballs. Sorry, that's wrong. Pairs of eyes filling it within. That's what's in the seraphim around God's throne, and that these are all things that don't occur here. We don't see them here. But they're able to interact with reality. They're intelligent. They have a physical aspect to them, as well as a mental or spiritual aspect. And that the intention is to come here and interfere with the way that we believe, interfere with the way that we run things. That is to say, end times.
Did they create us, or they intervened in human evolution?
Well, from what I can tell in the expansion of Adam, going further to tell the story of Adam, that he's the first kind.
Hmm.
Um, and he's made the first kind out of pulverized material. So I mean, literally, you could read that word dust or salt or ash. You could read anything small particulates where your eyeball can't pick out one part of it. But because of the bloodlines, I read that as genetic material.
Yeah, yeah. This is
And
important. If I can help, if I can actually give you a one good weapon,
oh, sure, go ahead. I love
uh,
weapons.
the dust of the ground there. You see, this
Mm-hmm.
is the stuff you are talking about.
Yeah.
This is afar min ha'adama, which is the stuff of human nature, literally.
Yeah, the stuff of human nature or genetics. Yeah, that's what I think
Even in
it's
the
saying.
word ha'adama, you have Adam right there. Adama
Yeah.
is Adam.
Well,
So
I didn't know that. I think it's really cool that you can read that. But I get that from the overall context anyway. I think this is what it's saying.
yeah, but even in the text, it says that the dust is human.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, human dust.
Yes,
Yeah.
cool.
So I think it's talking about human dust, or genetic material, which is why it says we're made a little lower than that which we will be. That is, we're restricted right now. We die of age, diseases, so things like that, and that we won't in heaven. That is, that part of us will be free, and we'll no longer be subject to those things as we naturally were intended before we were altered.
Mm.
And that what was the overall point? What was I trying to get
But you
at?
just
There
said
was an overall
altered,
thing.
so you mean we they intervened.
Yes, it says that the Elohim made us or caused us to be a little bit, not much, but a little bit lower than angels. Well, it's true that we have non-coding genetic material, or we have non-coding human dust, which we called junk DNA for a very long time. We now find that it's not junk DNA. We see it in no ancestor of human being. It is never coded. As long as we've been here, it's never coded.
So if I understand, one day you will fly everywhere in the universe.
Sure looks that way. I get choked up about it.
What?
I get excited.
And if I understand, one day you will be responsible for a specific creation.
I will be responsible for a specific creation. That sounds
According,
pretty Mormon to me.
okay, okay. That's a good one. Give me 1 minute. I need to digest the Mormon joke. I was
That Mormons believe as man is, God was; as God is, man becomes. Now, I believe that's true to some extent, but only if you're speaking about the Christ.
okay. Is
And
God?
they shouldn't use the word God there. They should use the word Father there, not God.
I see your point.
And, but
Is
they don't
God?
differentiate.
No, no, no. And they wear bizarre underwear also.
That's also true. I won't make fun of them for it.
No, no, no. We should remain serious. But do you think God is powerful enough to create something through you?
Already has several times.
And you would use the verb create.
Sure, because I mean, for one thing, I'm literally using the text of the Bible and reinterpreting it into our modern language without the presuppositions of Christianity, which ideas I get from prayer. So yeah, he's doing that.
What is your criteria when you pray?
I was my criteria when I pray.
Yeah.
The next thing I need to know to keep on this job, to keep going. I just ask for the next thing I need to know. I don't know what that is.
Wow. Your life
How
is
how would anybody know what that is?
so. Finally, you also think that salvation is biological.
The offer of salvation is for biological reasons. But because we have free will, anyone can deny and refuse what's rightfully theirs.
But if I refuse, what shall happen to me?
One of two things. Um, let's say that you lived into end times versus you died before end times started. So if you died before end times started, you'd be faced with the judgment. That is, you'd have some kind of consciousness and there's something to be judged. So apparently a person could change their mental position, their spiritual position during the judgment, or else there'd be nothing to judge. And then there's the person that lives, which means that they could choose heaven or hell right at that moment in the judgment, and then judged according to what they believe. And then, of course, there's people who live into end times, in which case they get 7 years of proofs that all these ancient religions were telling them the truth the whole time, and they just need to accept it. Now, in the second case, in the first case, you're faced with God, at least perceptually. In the second case, you're literally meeting angels, seeing heaven arrive to the earth. Well, both of those sound pretty darn persuasive. And then if a person values the book of Revelation, there's a calculable math problem in the book of Revelation where it says by the time the earth is being destroyed, at the very end of it, is finally being destroyed at the end of the 7 years, that there's only 70,000 people on the earth. And of that 70,000, most change their minds because of the plague of the falling skies, the falling rocks falling from the sky of 57 pounds or thereabout. During the great quaking of the earth, like none has ever been, which I read as crustal collapse. That will persuade you, crustal collapse. And most change their mind. Well, if it says a 10th fall of 70,000, then we have 63,000. Divide that in half for the smallest, most possible half. Then you have 31.5 thousand. And that is those that die in the lake of fire, not those that risk hell. So even less than that risk hell. So I don't know how many risk hell, but the biggest number it could be, according to the text, is a one-person risk of hell in 264,031.0000 people. 264,000 people. So I've not even met 264,000 people, which makes me inclined to believe I've never met someone going to hell.
I may be the first one.
You're a funny guy.
Now, where is God? Because now I have the right, if I understand, to ask you that question. Where
Absolutely.
is God? Because generally we don't ask that question seriously.
There are residents in heaven who hold to those standards, those immaterial constructs that are God. Now that God has being in that it is ideas, but no personage. The idea of the personage of God is a conflation between the Father and God. Now, is the Father the author of the Bible and then speaks as God? Absolutely. Does that make him physically God? No, it does not.
Interesting. What about the fact that the word person does not exist in Hebrew? And that
Right.
the only
That's
thing you will
interesting.
find is panim, which means faces, only in the plural. So when you say the presence of the Lord or the person of the Lord in Hebrew, it's the faces of the Lord.
The plural faces. So we're right back to Elohim.
And the singular does not exist.
I'm not surprised by that.
You have no pana, or I don't know, there is only panim.
Huh.
So when I talk about your quote unquote person, in reality in Hebrew it would mean your faces. And I love it because it means that you are a complex being. And although you are one, you have many faces or many you have the word facet in English. Facets.
Facet faces, yeah.
Do you allow me 2 minutes
Of course.
to get a coffee or something?
Yes, of course.
I love it. I love the conversation.
Me too, but I don't want to go too very long where people won't watch it.
Okay, do you want to stop now or you want to give me 2 minutes and we conclude for another 10 minutes maybe?
Yeah, that sounds good.
You like that?
Yes.
Great. 2 minutes, I will be back.
Right now, guys, I am looking for the definitional translation and idea for idea translation into modern English of the Tower of Babel. And I would read it to you. I mean, I know that I'm biased. Of course, I'm human. But is there a better way to translate this? And I don't think there is a better way. Now, this is definitional, as I said, word for word. Idea for idea, not word for word. Idea for idea translation into our language. Genesis 10:27. My noble honor is that I shall be flooded with the palms of their hands. I am stripped bare before my Father who is El, or E-L, God. I will be reducing to ashes the travailing sphere where they now cry shrilly in a wilderness. Absolutely every one of the same that I just referred to, who remain will be family building block sons of the one to loathe, and is small and is not worthy and is of smallness. So all this is to like really emphasize the idea of meekness or humility, not that they're a bad person. And it will come to pass that those dwelling there will pass into freedom by entering the enumerated looming mountain. So the well-described thing in the tall thing in the sky, sometimes called Zion, of heaven, before these family building block sons of the name of his obvious kindred, slandered by language in the ferment of the blood-red dyed earth of the Gentile Goy, are able to. The same obvious kindred, family building block sons of the giver of rest of the travailing generations with Gentile Goy, were these that were scattered abroad. And the Gentile Goy will remain scattered abroad in the earth and will stay there after the flowing deluge of angels. How do you like that? In other words, they'll be really stubborn even after the arrival of heaven. My desire is that it will come to pass and be better for you in the earth, that absolutely every of mankind in the earth will be made better in the time when they find the final language termination. And that is of one way and determined, and is the final language used to cross the shore, meaning the limits of a thing, a shore, as it is here promised to be. And it came to pass that in the departing time, the preventing death eastward, that they had found out and breached the plane of the firmament, meaning they've gone through the sky, wherein is heaven, meaning the habitation of God is out there above the sky, which is the land of two rivers, and they of heaven will tarry and inhabit time therein. Men had promised existent mankind companionship, ascribing them to make white tile. This is the breadboards I was referring to. And kindled the idea utterly within them and burned it thoroughly inside them so that it would come to pass. Of course, that got translated as burning, cooking bricks, which is goofy, but. And it came to pass that they made white tiles which built troubled slime pits of desire to come to pass, like pits of red mire. And they had promised the ascribed buildup would be to us kept available for everyone, a great tower elevated as a stage and a pulpit, whose head is lofty in the air, and it wrought them conspicuous positions by name, and regard despite being scattered abroad throughout. And it was regarded in sight of absolutely everything in the firm earth, and made obvious in sight everything to all whosoever was in the firm earth. Then descended Jehovah, and came down and beheld the guarded city of excitement, anguish, and terror, and the emerging sign of the magnified tower. In other words, this thing came to be, which was a sign to God. Of the magnified tower they therein built up sons had built. Then spoke Jehovah and said, Behold, the people held in darkness, ignorance. The people have gotten one way to the obvious terminate edge of the earth, and made perfectly the same, everything one certain way, for the obvious terminate edge of the earth. These sick and grievous people break what I wrought, and had adorned, everlasting in time, going forth with nothing restrained to walk what way they themselves devised to perform. Bring the dissension and confound them. By the way, this is the idea of dissension, that's the same as Jordan. And confound them, because those there mingled with the obvious terminate edge, they respect not the obvious terminate edge, each nation teaching their neighbor. And they were scattered abroad by Jehovah, and he broke to pieces the people abroad who emerged as a governing entity. They openly regarded the presence of Jehovah, absolutely everyone in the firmament, and they forsook to build that tower again. That tower, there's every eye will see.
Just a moment. Yeah, I see a typo in your first Jehovah without it.
I wish that was. Particular to this particular writing of it. I misspell things constantly.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying that you have a missing H in the first usage of Jehovah on the first line.
Oh, you're right. Thanks.
English is not my language now, so I see typos everywhere.
Good for you. I commit typos everywhere, so I help you out. We're complementary.
It's a great commitment. Continue to read that, please. I find that extremely original, actually.
Oh,
I would stop you at every word and talk about it. But please read another part. I was gone and now I'm back, but I missed the first part you read, but it's okay.
Well, I already presented the idea anyway. Throughout the establishing, therefore, he was proclaimed to be the name of conspicuous position, proclaimed doubtless by Jehovah, and he confounded them for the termination edge completely from every person on the firm earth, and they were scattered abroad upon the face of all the earth. Also those born of that generation of the name of conspicuous position, or people who believe, and he of the name of conspicuous position was God elected to change alive family building block sons delivered to him. That is what the Father gives me are mine. And he cursed the breast a second time alive, to have some tarry after the flowing deluge, or people who stay for the second half of the book of Revelation. Declare the name of the distinct and conspicuous position, and you declare life continued. That is, you declare Christ, you declare salvation. After the travailing of those whom he cursed the breast of, for a graceful God-elected change, and quickened life for you, and I will have you bear and build again sons and strangers, and bear and build again daughters and strangers from your village, and are the apple of your eye. This is reproduction after ascension.
I just want to read your note.
Sure.
If you can scroll up, yeah.
It's just the definitions in order. That's all it is.
Honestly, you remind me, if I can say something, you remind me of French author of the last century, 19th century.
Well, that's incidental because I haven't studied
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's very surprisingly similar.
Who's
And
that?
he was a great scholar, actually.
I mean, I'm not going to read because I don't want to become
No, no,
colored or
no,
tainted.
it's better like that. But one day, maybe I could show you the way he was a great, great scholar, and he was a specialist of Hebrew.
Oh, I'm not.
And yeah, but this is an Hebrew text, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that the reading frame I was given makes it translate this way. I mean, I could read this list of translations right here, of definitions right there, but that doesn't really tell you what it's getting at, you
Oh
know?
no, to have a list of definitions or options will not do the job.
Right. But what I see in those definitions is this.
And he who cursed the breast, like for example, the expression cursing the breast. For example, I would love to see where you took that. You see, this is what is interesting.
Yeah.
Where do you find breast?
It's literally this word right here. He cursed the breast.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where I got that from.
great. I see it.
So it's
Conti-
like the end of a lineage. It's like cursing a family. Like the children won't survive. You curse the breast.
that's an impressive expression. Because you know why? Because you know the name of God, El Shaddai. You see, when we call God El Shaddai, have you ever heard that? Just a moment, please. Just a moment.
No, no problem. Yeah. So this is a translation from the way that I read it, and this is literally the words.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was just speaking to waste time while you were gone. I didn't know how
Yeah,
long
that's
you'd be
good. That's
gone.
good. Yeah, yeah. I was just before I left. I was just saying, you know the name El Shaddai.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What
If
about it?
you look for that word Shaddai, it means breast.
Is that right?
See, it's the reason why I was surprised by your
So
expression.
that's like God of the breast, yeah?
But I mean, Shaddai. One day a few months ago, I emailed a rabbi and I said, "Did you see the boobs in the Torah?"
Yeah.
Okay, and he said, "Of course, I saw the boobs." But seriously, you see, joking aside, because Jews generally like to joke,
Okay.
the conversation was serious because Shaddai comes from a verb and breasts comes from the same root and it means breast. So now, why? What's the relationship between El Shaddai and the breast? The relationship is, uh, you see, the breast feed the child.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a food, and
Right.
so it's a sufficiency, we say in Hebrew. God, El Shaddai is the one who is sufficient, like your mother's breast.
Mm-hmm. I can totally see that.
So I just wanted to say that about the breasts.
Well, I would go so far as the way that I understand it, that it El Shaddai to me should mean something like, and I haven't looked it up. It should mean something like the relationships between us that cause us prosperity, something like that.
Wow. Anyway, this is a nice footnote. You see. Yeah, I like that. He who cursed the breast. So have you given what, the entire book of Genesis or what like
I've
that?
gotten to 18 so far.
18 chapters, I mean?
Yeah,
Wow.
there
I
you
have
go.
I have one chapter. I would like maybe one day to compare my first chapter with your first chapter.
Oh,
What
I'd
is
love to.
what is your first verse, please? I'm very curious.
Sure.
The very first is the most important. The very first verse is the seed of everything.
There you go.
Of it concerning you powerful angels, yeah, we form the sky and the planet. Yeah, from the very first verse, you will find people. Most people will just disagree with you, I guess. I don't know you. When people visit you on your YouTube channel, do they agree with you or they disagree with you? Or...
Well, it depends on how much they know about the actual words. I can get a person to agree to any of these words as a literal translation of the original thought. Okay? What they won't agree with is the sentence. They'll agree with every word and not the sentence.
No, I see your point. Because for me, for example, in the beginning, for me, it's not a bad translation,
Okay.
but I would give at least three, four, five other options, which explains why I don't know how to translate the Bible
Right.
because I would have to give three, four, five translations.
Well, just what is wrong with that?
But I would have to work hard. If you encourage me, I will try.
It would be rather lengthy. It's not something that's going to weigh 3 pounds people carry around with them. I understand that. I
Would
mean,
be
in
cool. Yeah.
print.
Would be cool to have Genesis chapter 1 up to chapter 11. For me, this is the core of Genesis. Or
So
let
so this is how I read it.
I
In,
see
in the
that.
beginning of where you are and what concerns you. At your location, powerful angels reformed the sky and the planet, and that planet, when they arrived, was without geographic area distinctions and void of life, and there was no atmosphere to refract light, so darkness was upon the face of the deep. Like if the angels stood on the planet, everything just looks black out there, and atmosphere is what changes that. And powerful angels said, "Let there be refracting of light," and there was light on the earth. And of course, that's due to them dumping an atmosphere. Then they dump an ocean. Then they dump plants. Then they dump critters. And finally, us.
Wow.
And all of that was maintained in heaven before there was a man to. So that's two, right? Before there was ever a man um, to till the garden, all that was maintained in heaven, all of it. So it doesn't even mention the making of the things, like people want to say.
Why do you call it the emotional animal?
From what I can understand in a full definition, what Adam or Adamah means is the animal that turns red in the face like the red clay of the earth.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I rationalize that, the reason that human beings are different from everything else here is that we have emotions, and with that emotion comes out in our face, and we do indeed turn red in the face, not constantly red in the face. We turn red in the face like the red clay of the earth. So that's a good name for us to differentiate between us that have emotions and something else. Of course, a definition encapsulates the total of the thing, and it also simultaneously eliminates everything else. Thereby, the namer has no emotions and called us emotional thing, which I think is a perfectly good name. There it is. These were the generations of the heavens and the earth when it was repurposed in the time that Jehovah angels reformed the earth and the sky. And angels had maintained every wild plant of the wilderness before it was in the earth, and every cultivated herb of the field before it grew. And the Jehovah angels had not caused it to rain upon the earth. That is, there was not a man to till the ground. An angel gathered gases had reacted with existent gases and mixed, making heat, making a viable and perfected atmosphere of everything present, and affirmed the earth for Adam, saying, okay, we're good. We can put people on it now.
I want to read your note. The translation in English was so surprisingly poor, where most translations states to the original language generally that I thought I should leave you. The actual etymology and definitions of gathered vapors burn, gathered vapor mixed, firm clay face. And that was Genesis 1.
No. Well, it's the end of Genesis 1, yes, sorry.
How many verses do you have? 37?
How many what? Verses have I done?
No, but
Well,
Genesis
this
1, I
is
find 27, I think.
okay. The parenthetical 2:4, 2:5, and 2:6 here is the way it was originally numbered. I just disagree that there was a topic
Okay,
change.
I see.
So I wanted to number it 135. Well, here we go, all the way back to from 132. But in the King James, there is no 132.
In the King James, you have how many verses?
It only
31.
goes on to
31.
131, and then it goes to 2:1 in the King James. I just disagree because I don't think there was a topic change.
Nah.
So I kept going with all the way up to 37. Then I saw a topic change.
So how do you work? You look for the words, or you said you were praying.
Well, what I do is in prayer I read and I ask what it means, and then I try to disprove what I'm told that it means by looking up the definitions and even words that weren't translated, and even into predictive power. And I also try to disprove it by a lack of consistency throughout the story. And I've yet to disprove anything I was told in prayer. When I look up the definition, it works. When I use it within context of the sentence, when I use it in context of the paragraph and the whole of the Bible, it all works. I've never seen a problem, a contradiction.
And what about the canon? Do you receive the entire canon of Greek and Hebrew scriptures?
Well, I think the truth was told to everyone all over the planet. And it's, I'm sure I've told you this parable before, but this is what I believe happened. God knew he'd be absent, so he gave everyone the same story in different ways, so that when the Christ comes, he can look at all those different stories and see the changes. So there's no way to not preserve it through broad distribution through different societies. So what I believe is the case is when Christ comes back for the end of this earth, he'll see the story everywhere, and where man changed it will stick out to him like a big sore thumb. So those changes won't matter.
So you disagree with most Christians on almost everything.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the Bible instead.
I like originality for sure, and yes, I really love to have conversations with you. As you can see, personally, I have no. Who, who is John?
I don't know, but he showed up in my chat, so I thought I'd say peace and respect to him.
What is fanboy?
I don't know what he's talking. I don't even know who Kenny is.
Okay.
Maybe if you used all the available characters, all 200 of them, I might know what you're talking about. But I'll tell you one thing that seems obvious to me, even without you explaining what you're talking about. If I've forgotten, I don't hold a grudge. How does that seem for obvious? And I can't remember who Kenny is. So, and I don't think I've ever been a fanboy of anyone but the Father and the Christ, ever, my whole life. But that's okay. You're welcome to believe whatever you want to, Mr. Hudson. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to see your translation of Genesis 1,
Yeah.
and see if we can find any significant differences between what I'm reading and between what you're reading. And I kind of suspect there won't be any major differences.
Like for example, before I leave, because I work tomorrow, but I would like to share with you maybe one example.
Sure.
So it would be a
And
nice
it's
way.
it's not just you. I haven't even eaten.
Oh, okay. Me neither. I mean, I have eaten this morning.
Oh, I haven't eaten all day.
Oh ho! So you have to eat.
Yeah, I only eat once a day.
Wow. I eat twice, I would say,
Hmm.
and I sleep.
Imagine that.
This is a grace. Every night I sleep. I love it. I love to sleep. I love to disappear.
Really, I hate it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
If you ate it, you would remind me of I think it was in the 17th or 18th century in France. There was a kind of bizarre thing where people did not want to go to bed because they feared to fall into, I don't know, kind of abyss, and it was very popular for a long period, for maybe a century. I don't know. You would have to read about that. The people would sleep on a chair because
hmm.
it's a true story,
Because you don't get to fully sleep if you're sitting in a chair,
and you
but
don't
you
fear that you
will
will fall
rest.
into the abyss.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I heard it said, "Oh, little slice of death," and that's exactly how I experience sleep. It feels like a slice of death is coming. I don't like it.
It's the same in love.
Hmm.
In love, we have many expressions where uh, many things about love are related to death.
Point out something, because I'm not seeing it right now.
I will answer with the scripture, not with French tradition, but with scripture, if you don't mind.
Okay.
French tradition would be too far from our topic, but you see there, ki tuvim dodecha miyayin, your love is better than wine. Okay, and after that they will say what?
Wait, I need you to share screen because no one is seeing what you're talking about.
Okay, I thought I was sharing my screen. Sorry about
Sorry,
that.
I took it down. That was my fault, not yours.
No, no, but there is a place. Just a moment, I will find it. Maybe the next chapter there. We have to find a place where it says that love is as strong as death. There they say, I'm sick of love. Okay, I will find it. Strong death. This Song of Songs, chapter 8, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. So that was my concept. And you will love it. Are you still there? Do you
Yes.
see the word most vehement flame there?
Yes.
You will love it because it's a bad translation. Because the text does not say most vehement flame. So the King James, you see, when we debate about the King James, personally, I have great respect for the King James.
Yes,
Great.
I do too.
Okay. But it's not a perfect text. And this is a good example there. Shall have it, Yah, means the flame of Yah, Adonai, literally. Now, this is an error, and look at the translations. In the New King James, they say the vehement flame. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, the new, they say brightest kind of flame. You see, they don't really know what to do. So I don't know why. You see, it's the flame of Yah. So one day, you see, if you continue, the mighty flame. No, there, ESV, the flame of the Lord. That's it. That the very flame of the Lord is the best so far. And the almighty flame is cute somehow.
I mean, as soon as we started talking about it, the first thing that came to my mind was the burning
What
bush.
this is very interesting. Of course, the very flame of Yah is the best one so far. The very
Oh, I like
flame of
that.
Yah, and the very is in italics
What's
because
LSB stand for?
Legacy Standard Bible, and
Legacy Standard.
what
Okay.
and the Amplified says the very flame of the Lord, the blazing flame is just imagination.
Yeah, that's not very good.
The flame of Jehovah is good, but the J, you see, you also use the J, but I would debate on the letter J personally, but it's
Should be a
fine.
Y. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the J does it's a sound that does not exist in Hebrew,
Right.
but I don't mind because in English, Jehovah is now a word. So you see, there they say Jah or Yah.
Yeah. The pronunciation is wrong, but the idea is right. I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
communicates the idea.
yeah. You seem to be someone who sticks to the meaning. You look for the meanings,
Yes.
and the Latin is the culprit. You see, so the King James was not always focused on the Hebrew text only, and there was I'm quite sure they were also using the Latin. And when you read the Latin there, you see, uh, this is not the flame of Yah. This is a culprit. Ignis atque flamarum is not a good translation. And yeah, and I know my Latin to some extent. So now to give you an example before we leave, okay, like you were giving a Genesis 1:1, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you said I would not that you would not disagree. Okay, we will test that. Like for me, when I look at this, if I highlight, do you see that? Yes, you do. Okay,
Yes.
so if I highlight, this is the first word of Genesis. So when I look at that grammatically, it's not my opinion. My opinion. It's just what I see. Like grammatically, I see first two things because the first letter there, you see the bet. This is a preposition, and the rest of the word is the word. So
Okay.
so you already have two things. You have a preposition and you have a word. They stick them together in Hebrew. So the first letter is a preposition. So now they generally translate in. You see in English they're in.
Mm-hmm.
The th is not there. So this is an error. If I can be very picky, the the is not in the text.
Right.
And it could have been there because in Hebrew they do have actually they use it right there, the heavens and the earth. You see the hey hashamayim v'aharetz. So they use the definite article twice in the same verse. So it does exist. You see hashamayim
Yes.
ve'et haaretz. So it does exist right there in the same verse. So it's in beginning. Now I have to say a few things, and you will tell me what you think. The first letter there, the preposition in,
The bait.
yeah, the bait, which is a house, because bait is a house, and also because it's a number two. This is the second letter of the alphabet.
So it's the second house.
It's a dwelling for sure. This is clear. But now I will continue. Grammatically, the bet means in, or it could also mean with, even in modern Hebrew, or it could mean in, with, and what is the other one? In,
Alongside of?
yeah, yeah, but it's very simple. You have in, with, and by,
By. Okay. Yeah,
by.
okay.
Okay, so in Hebrew, when you express by, in, and with, it's bet. It's a grammatical device right there in a very primitive document. The first letter is a grammatical note.
Hmm.
So the rest of the word is reshit, feminine word. So now Hebrew is a gendered language, so this is a feminine word because the masculine would not be reshit, the masculine would be rosh. Now this is the feminine. It's a we translate beginning. Now this word means more than beginning, so that's my problem when I try to translate. Do I say in, with, or by? First question, because for me, in and by are not the same concepts.
Right. It's the
By,
difference between containing and being beside of,
oh yeah, and by expresses a kind of channel, a kind of maybe instrumentality.
like a guiding. Yeah.
Yeah, with, you see, I build the house with my hammer. So the with is an instrumental preposition.
Okay.
So you see, so right there with the first letter, I'm not sure if I will translate in or by or maybe the other one. I always forget one of the three. So anyway, the word is reshit. So this word is translated beginning generally. So now, first thing is cool to look. It's the Septuagint is arche, which is also a feminine word, by the way, and it's interesting. This is the Septuagint. Now, John and John 1:1 will use the same word. So
Okay.
so it's good to know that. So John knows that the word is Bereshit in Hebrew. He knows that 2 centuries before Christ, the Septuagint was arche, and arche is feminine. And by the way, no definite article either. It's not in the beginning. There
It's
in
in
Greek,
beginning.
this is en arche, yes, and otheos. It's not definite.
Okay.
So if you return to the text, you have in, let's say, beginning. Now the problem, you see, John the Septuagint gives arche. Now, arche in Greek is a very clear concept. It means principle, like in science. It
The
means what
principal
is,
thing.
yeah, yeah, or principle of scientific principle. And what is your principle? Is your premise?
It's like, it, would it be unfair for me to say like law?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Because logos in Latin will become lex, which means law. Interestingly,
Okay.
so now in Hebrew, reshit means, of course, for the Greek John and the Greek of the Septuagint, it will mean arche, principle. What is first? Like in science, like let's say the Big Bang is the arche. You see, in physics, those who talk about the Big Bang, they consider the Big Bang as the
The principal
principle.
thing.
You see,
Yeah.
of the universe. It's the first thing. So that first thing, no matter if you believe in the Big Bang or not, I don't care at all personally. But but we have to understand that that first thing uh, is a principle, and it's first. Oh, oh yes, I was about to say first in matter, first in time, first in space, first in everything, first in life, first in love, first in everything. So the problem with the word beginning, it's a word of time. You see that beginning conveys the concept of time.
like it only could refer to
Fine.
chronological time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not wrong, but it's exclusive. Whereas now, if I tell you that Reshit means the first fruit, if you take this word and you look at the English tradition, you will see that quickly it's okay, beginning, 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 and after a few lines, the first of the first fruits. So this is the very meaning of Reshit. It's the choicest part of the first fruit of the harvest. It's a kind of the best of the best.
So so like so like it says Christ is not born first, but is firstborn. That kind of an idea. It's the best.
It's the best of the best, and it is through that best, or by that best, or with that best. You see my first letter bet there. You see with which I have a joyous problem. Okay, so it is with that bet, with that best thing, or through that best thing, or by or in. You see all that
Mm-hmm.
best thing that the Elohims have created. The two objects there. The text says that you have two objects because et is another grammatical note. It means the following thing is an object. What object? The heavens. And another object. What object? The earth. This
Right.
is grammar in the text. So now, in the first fruit or by the first fruit, to me, and also the masculine of it, this is feminine, the masculine of it, Rosh means the head, Head. So now, what is the head? It's what is first. You see, when you see the head principle, the head of a school is the principal, is the authority,
Yeah.
is what is first. You said the law would fit. It's if we really understand what the meaning of the word law means, yes.
Or the part that leads. Is it fair to say the part that leads?
I mean, it's so rich. You see, that's the problem. How could I translate something that is that rich? So now, what about by the first fruit? Because
Well,
this
the
is
thing
this is
about
what
the
I
first
read.
fruit is it recommends a second fruit.
And yes, and it suggests that the first fruit in Hebrew is always the first fruit of a harvest. So it suggests that
Yes.
something happened before.
Yeah.
If you
A
see my
harvest.
point. Oh yeah. When I read that, I see, and also the first letter is the second letter of the alphabet, which suggests it's not the first one. You see my point? So
Yes.
so when I read that, and I'm not alone, of course, many Jews.
It
When we
didn't have
read,
to be, of course. Why is it of course?
yeah, yeah, it's true. But when we read that, we instinctively see that something happened right before that. But the text does not talk about that. Not
Well, that's why I wrote of the part that concerns you. That's why I put that in there. Is to give the idea of you're in a very small mindset, and I'm only going to talk about the stuff that's in your mindset, the stuff that you see from there.
yeah, yeah. Because
Now
most
those
people,
those
yeah,
words are literally not there.
yeah.
I interjected,
I saw
of
that.
what concerns you.
I
I,
saw
I
that
interjected that completely. But these
because
are the reasons I interjected it.
yeah, because if I translate literally like crazy, okay, I would say in first fruit created Elohim the following thing, the heavens and the following thing, the earth.
Yeah.
This is literal without adding anything. And my following thing is understood there.
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds harsh, you see. But but what about the first fruit of something happened before? Because somehow this justifies what you believe.
I'm aware.
Because you say that, okay, I will ask you a question. Do you think that this is the beginning of reality?
No, it's the
Okay.
beginning of this location in the reality.
Wow, this is a rare statement. Because in the Middle Ages, around the 13th century, in the south of France, we had Rashid, probably the greatest Jewish commentator. He was not French, he was Jew.
Okay.
And Even to this day, when we look for words, we look for Rashi, what he said, you see, 7 centuries
Now I'm
ago.
interested what his name means.
Rashi is actually is an acronym. It's an acronym.
Okay.
The Greek Jewish masters. By the way, the acronyms were invented by Jews, I believe. The
The whole
concept
idea of using
of an
acronyms.
acronym, I'm quite sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Rashi
Yeah,
is an acronym. Yeah.
we got a lot of really cool stuff from the Jews. It's true.
So he was supposed to be the most literal commentators. Okay, commentator. And when he
Hmm.
begins with Genesis 1:1, it's a beginning. I mean, he should be literal. And he says, just a moment, I cannot be literal with this one. But he's supposed to be the most literal Jew. And he says, I'm sorry, I know I'm a party pooper, you see, to begin the Genesis like that, but this cannot be the description of the creation of reality. He says that.
I agree.
And he says, this is the first fruit of Israel. And he writes beautiful pages. And after that, he returned to his literal commentary. But he screws up like greatly in the first verse. He says that this is not the creation of reality. It's an explosive
I mean,
statement.
I don't know that that isn't screwing up. That is screwing up.
No, no, but he screws up the tradition of literal. You see, he screws up the Jewish and Christian and Muslim tradition of seeing in that, you see, phrase, the beginning of reality. I don't see the beginning of reality in that verse at all. If you are still there.
Maybe that's the overall. I was just calling you. Forgive
No,
me,
no.
but sometimes you actually make me think.
Yeah, sorry. You should tell my ex-wife. You should tell my ex-wife.
Well, should next time I see her, I will tell her.
She's a nice woman.
I'm sure.
She's a
Um,
Jew and she's Russian. But I mean, when I see Bereshit, I see that this is the beginning of a project. Really, it's an enterprise.
yes, I believe it is.
Anyway, I know you may be tired now.
No, no, I'm okay. I mean, I should go and do other things. We should wrap this up just because life, you know. Although there's no way for me to tell you how much I appreciate these conversations with you.
But you were supposed to tell me if you disagree with that in the first fruit or by the first fruit, if it fits with your.
In fact, it's one of the implications that's demanded by what I understand the text to be overall. Although the letters that are here, like saying the bait, the second letter, is suggesting that there's a letter before it, and I believe that there's an earth before this earth. So it makes perfectly good sense to me that since there was an earth before the earth, the first letter in the text should be not the first letter.
And also the
There's
first
there's
fruit
there's
is always,
poetry and
yeah,
symmetry in that.
of
You know,
course. Actually, the symmetry is more impressive than we could believe, because Bereshit, the first word is a feminine singular, the last word is a feminine singular. Elohim is a plural masculine. Shamaim is a plural masculine. It's a pure,
so
perfect
there's a
mirror
merism there.
of gender and number. And this word stands in the middle. And if you look on one side, you have 5 letters. On the other side, you have 5 letters. And after that,
I
you have
see that.
3 letters. And there you have 3 letters. You see that?
Right.
So it's a pure palindrome of genders, numbers, letters, and even rhymes. Elohim, Shamaim, Reshit, Aretz. I mean, you could talk about that for hours and hours and hours. And also in the middle, you have the first and the last letter of the alphabet. And Jesus said, I am the Aleph and the Tav. But he said that in Greek, I am the Alpha and the Omega. But this is
Right.
the Alpha and the Omega in Hebrew right there in the middle of the verse. And if you look on both sides, you have a perfect equilibrium. And in math, it gives pi 3, 16, 14, 16. It gives pi.
Am I wrong because I see a set of balances there,
Of course,
a
you are not.
judgment?
On one side, you have the creation, on the other side, you have the created realities. And yes, I think there is a balance between the two. But tell me what you see.
To me, I see heaven and earth and Christ in the middle. That's what I see.
Yeah, right there you have another balance, and there Christ is there yet again. You see, you have a balance there on both sides, and within the left side you have another balance. You see there,
I do.
it appears twice. Actually, you see when we say Christ and the second coming of Christ. So this is I am the Alpha and the Omega, and it repeats I am the Alpha and the Omega. So the second coming is also somehow in the first verse. If you want to see that.
Yeah, I understand that there is at least some Jewish poetry which doesn't count on the words saying or sounding the same,
Yeah,
but instead counts on the ideas that are mirroring each other,
you are right.
which I'm seeing that here.
And it's also the same for the this is the letter aspect. Now the double-edged sword in my opinion is the letter aspect and the number aspect. Now if we would
Yeah.
erase this and write, instead of writing bet resh aleph shin yod tav, we would write 2, and we would write 401 and 310 and 400 again, something like that, and we would count them. And of course, it would be meaningful. Jews are still working on that. Like, I mean, mathematicians and statisticians. It's impressive stuff. I mean, it's not normal, actually, even scientifically and historic. My daughter is a PhD in physics, and I showed that to her, and she's not a believer. And she said, "This is from the UFOs." I said, "No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. It's
that's what I think.
yeah," because she does not believe in God. So she said for sure a human being 3,000 years ago was not able to write that because pi was not known except by Egypt and the Babylonians, and they got it wrong.
Yeah.
Also, they got it wrong. They had 3 point. The rest was wrong. Now in Genesis 1:1, if you count, you would find 3.14, etc. The rest is right.
For
And this is
how many fraction how many parts?
actually, the answer would be extremely impressive, but it's 22 divided by 7 if you take your calculator. But I don't know if we already talked about that. But actually, I mean, it's so amazing that if you would take the real series of the pi, 3.14, 16, etc., the rest is infinite. I could show you, but not tonight, but I could show you that the infinite series of pi generally, I mean, my daughter confirmed that to me. She's a PhD in physics,
Mm-hmm.
and she said pi is irrational. It's not rational. I asked her, yeah, but at the 100 place, I saw the number 7. Why not 6? You see, why not 6? And she said it's
Because it has to be 7.
yeah, but not in science. They will say it's irrational.
Well, it depends on where you want to stop and when you want to round it off. What
Oh
that
yeah.
last number is going to be.
Oh yeah, but she freaked out when I said if I would explain the rationality of pi with the help of the first verse of Genesis, would you freak out? And she said, "Of course I would freak out." And I said, "Sit, oh my daughter." After 5 minutes, she said, "Daddy, it's crazy. It's from the UFOs."
Either it's one of the world's largest coincidences, or the author purposefully did that. It has to be one of those two things.
Yeah,
And if the author did that on purpose, it shows a knowledge the people did not have. And I mean a knowledge worldwide the people did not have.
at all. because you have no modern science. You see, after that, you have the development of science through the centuries, and it would not have been possible without pi. If you don't have pi, you have nothing. If you read about that,
And I think we should stop right there. That is a beautiful ending point where we claim that pi or some amount of it, numbers in the correct order, are in the first line of the book of Genesis.
of course, 22 divided by 7. You see the 7 words there in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
If you would take the first, because it's the first verse, so you take the first letter of every word, bet, another bet, word number 3, aleph, word number 4, aleph, word number 5, hey. You see that word number 6, vav, word number 7, hey. You take their values, you have 2, 2, 1, 1, 5, 6, 5. I've memorized them, of course. And if you add them now, you will have 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 equals 22. Divided by 7 words, it gives pi, 3 point, the right number.
That's at least
This is crazy shit.
interesting. I think people who see that should say that's at least interesting.
At least, okay. I will look in my English dictionary for the meaning of at least.
At least, as in, if not more. As a bare bones minimum, that should provoke some thought. And I think for some people, it should show that we cannot have written that.
There are too
For
many
me,
things.
it's just another time it's pointing out that we cannot have written
Yeah.
this.
Because try to write one sentence like that. I told my daughter, I give you $1 million. You have 1 year. You have all the resources you need, the team you need, everything, and you will write one sentence like that with the budget and the time and everything, and the resources.
Sure.
And she said, I will not be able to do it.
I'll tell you
One
something really.
sentence.
I had a friend of mine who's a computer programmer. I asked him to reverse engineer a program so that I can use it as a universal translator.
Okay.
Um, because when you read Matthew 1,
Okay.
it is literally 35 by 64, which is the same arrangement as the IBM punch key card computing method. And he wrote me a program, and if you stick biblical phrases into that program, it retranslates or untranslates them, and they are comprehensible things. They make claims and such.
Of course. One day I will talk about
Well,
my
if it's
Chinese
wrong, it should
project.
come out gibberish.
But
Chinese what?
I had a Chinese project. My goal was to create a machine that would to which you would give zeros and ones. You see 0, 1, 1, 0.
Mm-hmm.
And the machine would take the numbers and create a poem in Chinese. And you would
Hmm.
think it's crazy, okay? And you know why I'm not working on my project right now?
Why?
Because this was before the pandemic. I was working on my ancient Chinese language and project with the numbers, and then my brain was full of crap, Chinese crap. And and uh, and one day I discovered that 2,000 years ago, a Chinese poet had already worked on a similar project.
Huh.
So similar that I gave up, and I was crying like a baby. It was my baby project. It was so cool. A machine that would create poems in Chinese. And of course, 2,000 years ago, the concept was not a machine, but it was exactly the same plan, the same device, the same number. It was crazy. I did not believe it, and I forsook the project. But the machine would have, I still have my plan with all the numbers and the calculations and everything. The machine would create poems with binary calculations. Do you like that?
That is interesting.
Of course. Because you marry math and music and poetry. And this is exactly what I think the Hebrew text there is. It's an
Well, so do
absolute
I'm only sorry that you found out that someone had done that before you.
2,000
Uh,
years before me.
yeah, I wish you had been ignorant of that and made it yourself anyway.
It's so sad story. And this, I had no inspiration after to continue.
Yeah, well, you would feel like, what's the point? Someone else has already done it. But the interesting thing
But I
here,
felt he took my copyright, but 2,000 years before me. But it's my copyright.
damn time travelers,
Fuck.
you just can't trust them. That's terrible. I am getting hungry.
That's a lovely
I've
conversation.
been thinking about food in the back of my head, and I'm guilty of that.
That's sweet guilt. You made my evening with that conversation.
I really appreciate you too. Thank you very much.
So I will. So who wrote what?
It's really hard to say, but it's really interesting too.
Sammy are by nature rare, and they would not be coincidences.
Yes, but at some point there's a tipping scale. There's a tipping point to that scale, and I think that tipping point is, you can decide what the tipping point is, but it's simply complexity. At some level of complexity, a coincidence becomes ridiculous, and you can decide where that is.
I think the French philosopher Descartes said that ignorance is the name we give. Sorry, he said that chance, which is the same topic, chance is the name we give to our ignorance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's true. After all, if we had all the necessary information, we wouldn't have an approximation. We wouldn't have a chance. It would just be,
Wow.
if that makes sense.
I wrote a few paragraphs on this topic. If I may share them with you next time.
Please do. Sorry,
Cool.
little
That's a
hiccup
great.
there.
That's a great conclusion. If you need to take care of your blood sugar, I will also need to eat anyway.
Wait a second. 22 divided by 7 has out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 decimal points. How is 15 decimal point? Who the hell calculates pi past? I mean, for what purpose would you calculate past that? And
It's
by the way,
crazy.
that's just what my computer will print. That's just what it will print. It doesn't mean that's even the end of 22 divided by 7. That seems pretty specific to me, George. Yeah,
I'm not.
out of thousands and thousands, out of an infinite, 15 is not very much of an infinite, if that's what you mean. But have you personally ever used the 16th decimal in your actual calculation of anything?
And also, I would like to say one thing. 22. I'm not a mathematician, but I know that 22 divided by 7 is, I think, the closest approximation of
Yeah.
pi expressed in a division, as far as I know.
That looked pretty good to me. I mean, I've never used past the 5th decimal for any of my calculations. In fact, I don't think I've used the 5th one yet. Anyway,
I mean, I cannot count my budget.
Ben Abrahim, thank you so
Yeah.
much for tonight. I hope we can
Oh,
do this again soon.
oh yeah, it's an exploration every time. As long as you understand my English.
It's good enough for me. It's better. Your English is a lot better than a lot of people I get to speak to, actually, who are natural born English speakers.
Well, you should not say that. I will.
I'm afraid it's true. It's disappointing, but it's true. I blame the school system over here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
I was 35 when I began to learn English.
Yeah. Well, you don't suck at it. How's that?
I will try to. I will try to fail better, as Samuel Beckett said. Fail better.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother Richard. I
Thank
loved it.
you, Brother Ben. I
Okay.
appreciate you, man.
Bye bye. Have a great meal.
I
Thanks.
will.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm forever indebted. I really am. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Till next time, guys, I hope you'll show back up for the next conversation. This is just how this guy is. So I really appreciate that. Please remember to stroke the algorithm before you go. Computers like that sort of thing. Thank you all very much. Good night.